can't see my terribly disorganized and never able to keep clean desk. And pronouns are he, are she, whatever, she, her, whatever. So, and I'll pass it to Karen.
Hello, everybody. I'm Karen Denacor with ADA Programs Division with the City of Oakland. I think this is my second meeting, but I'm still pretty new. And I'm here today in place of our division manager. I'm just using my, oh, I don't think I'm on screen, am I? So I'm good. Anyway, so yeah, be gentle with me, but I'm really happy to be participating.
And welcome, Karen.
Thank you. Should I pass it to someone?
Oh, you may. Yes, please.
How about, I want to meet Lisa Austin, our co-host.
I was going to change it so that I could be live, but I wasn't expecting to get selected so quickly. But for the purposes of describing what I am wearing today and how I look, I have black and gray top with a vest, jacket that's black, glasses, blonde brown, shoulder length hair. And my background in a minute will be snowy with decorations on trees and in nature. And I work for CFILC, and I now work along many of our programs, handling logistics and supporting the DDAR team in their work with public safety power shutoffs. And let's go to Alexandra.
Alexandra. Alexandra may have stepped away for just a minute. Let's see, let's go to Yannin. Or Yanin.
Hi, everyone. This is actually my first time here. And so thank you for having me. My name is Yanin. My pronouns are they, them. I am white with bangs and a brick colored beanie and an olive sweater. I'm wearing 3 jackets because my heater doesn't work in my apartment and it's very cold in the Bay Area right now and rainy. I am a PhD student at UC Berkeley, and my work is around wildfires and disabilities. So I just found out about this group and I am really happy to be here and meet all of you. And I could pass it over to Elizabeth.
Hi, good morning. It's Elizabeth. I just joined, so I don't know what the question that was asked.
Just to introduce yourself, share where you're from and your role, and then if you'd like to also feel free to share your pronouns and any physical description that you might want to share.
Okay, let me, okay, there we go. Sorry, I didn't know it was off. My name is Elizabeth. Good morning, everyone. I prefer she, her. I'm with Central Coast Center for Independent Living. And sorry, I joined late. I thought it was going to be at 11. It's because everyone has a day off, but I'm like, let me still join in the meeting, right? But yeah, I'm a case manager with Central Coast Center, and I just recently started working with along and helping out with the DAR program towards the end of September.
Great, thanks. Alexandra, are you back with us? All right. Okay, well, we've got a small crew today, but I think there are some, new to me faces. So personally, I'd like to I think the idea that I had for this meeting too was for us to kind of go through and share some of our end of year goals, you know, in relation to disaster readiness, just to see where we're at, and also just what we've been working on, you know, the idea of building kind of this collective knowledge and accountability too for you know, sharing out some of the information that we're all working on. I'd like to see, you know, what our new folks might be able to bring to this conversation, and also how to explore what 2022 can look like. And June, do you feel comfortable sharing a little bit about maybe some of your personal goals?
Sure. Thanks for putting me on a spot.
Sorry.
Oh, me.
I can always shift it off to
Well, you know,
someone else.
I just had a really interesting discussion with an old friend from New York,
Mhm.
and we were talking about emergency procedures for people who use powered mobility. And so one of my goals for next year is to come up with a realistic tip sheet for what people can do in terms of preparing personal preparation regarding their own mobility devices. And I can go into that later, but the second part of it is looking at what policy changes can, from the top down, can force, or in other words, the industry, the manufacturers, the suppliers, the distributors, to provide emergency preparedness information when they write the manuals and when they deliver the product. So, for example, when I would get a scooter, they would automatically say, here's a sheet of emergency information. This is your serial number. This is your make. This is your model. These are the batteries and the kind that should be replaced. This is who you call for an emergency repair. And some other kind of things like that. So those are two things, Russell. I don't know if that's what you're looking for, but that is top of my mind this morning.
Oh, that's a good one, June. I know that, you know, certainly we here in this space have talked about, you know, how to do that, but really I think it's important that maybe we look at, you know, what are the missing pieces of information that people should be getting whenever they get a device, you know, a durable medical equipment that they're not familiar with, or that they may be new to, or even that they may be familiar with. There's nothing, you know, I've gotten several new power chairs over the course of my life, and there has never been once a discussion about what to do in case of an emergency with me. In fact, you know, I'm lucky, I think I remember maybe once where the provider of the equipment actually went over with me where to find the serial number and that information in the, it's usually, hopefully, in the documentation that they give you, but not always. So I think that's really important to know.
And I will add one other thing. My subject matter expert said she was fairly shocked at seeing a lot of the things online that say have an extra set of batteries without any acknowledgement of how unrealistic that can be, of the fact that many of us can't charge a battery if it's outside of our device. It's got to be inside the device. So anyway, back to you, Russell.
Thank you. Thank you. I'd also just quickly say that it's comical that someone would say something like that, because my durable medical equipment provider, which is one of the larger ones nationally, they have trouble keeping batteries on hand themselves, because I don't know if everyone knows, but batteries like the type used in power chairs, they need to be kept on a charger a lot. They can't just sit on a shelf. If they sit on a shelf, their shelf life is less than 6 months. And my durable medical equipment provider, which again is one of the big national ones, they told, they said it's really hard for us because we've got so many batteries that they can't keep them all on charge, and I mean, there's so much waste, really, honestly, that happens. And also they're giving out, you got to be real careful because they're giving out batteries that have probably been on the shelf a little too long off a charger. So anyway, just
That's right. And
things to think about.
my subject matter expert said there are extreme differences in qualities of batteries. So she said, what she mentioned one, and I said, oh, I've gotten those before. And she said, well, those are top of the line. And when you request new batteries, always request those because they are significantly better, made better. And she started saying why, and I could not, for the love. I could not. I gotta follow what she was saying, but she's somebody I believe. So anyway, back to you, Russell.
Thanks, Jen. Okay, I noticed we had someone join us, Hans. Hans, if you'd like to quickly introduce yourself and share maybe the organization that you're with and anything else you'd like to share about yourself. Right now, we are having an open discussion about goals and priorities for 2022, what people are interested in working on in the context of disaster readiness. So feel free to jump in.
Oh, great. Well, thank you. Yeah, I actually am with RIL. I just started last week. Brandy left. So I'm the new program manager, only 5 days in. So bear with me, still learning the ropes, but excited to join the RIL team and looking forward to working with all of you.
Welcome, Hans. You are at a great center. RIL was my center as well. So it's really great to see you. So many new faces on this call. I'm so excited. So because of the nature of, this is our systems change meeting. So since you might be new to these meetings, the California Disaster Coalition, Disaster Strategies Coalition has 2 meetings a month, once on the 2nd Thursday of the month and once on the 4th Thursday of the month. And the 2nd Thursday of the month is focused on certain topic areas. And the 4th Thursday of the month is this systems change meeting where we talk about strategies and planning for advocacy and other things that we can get out into the community and actually make some changes to help make it easier for people to access resources during disaster time. So it's really great to see you here. Welcome. Hopefully we'll have some time to connect too, but I'd love to maybe hear from a few of you, since there are so many new folks here with us. What are some of your kind of personal goals, or even just, depending on your experience, feel free to share very broadly too. Anything that you might want to learn about in terms of disaster readiness. And let's see, I can either open it up to see if there's some folks that are willing to share right away, or I can kind of go around and check in with folks. It looks like Elizabeth has her hand raised. So Elizabeth, go ahead.
I think for myself and our center, something that I really want to look forward to is planning to go out to community events. Santa Cruz County and Monterey County. Monterey County, I feel, is a little bit more stricter than Santa Cruz County. They have had like a few community events, and if I could just, go in person, I feel like it would be so much more helpful than, I know when we have these Zoom meetings or Google Meets, there's only so much, or sometimes people are a little bit shy like myself, and we don't reach out. And I feel like just going out into either community events, even if it's like a local farmers market. We do have a large population here that, most of the people here go to the farmers market. So even just like setting up a little booth and just informing them who we are here. Because since we are serving, San Benito, Monterey, and Santa Cruz, I feel like Santa Cruz, because I'm so new to it, that I haven't participated as much as they've participated in the other two counties. So just getting out there and making sure all the information's out there, as well as being able to provide a little bit more written handouts and emergency preparedness. A lot of the times when I'm doing the assessments, I do ask our consumers if they have their own personal emergency plan, and they're like, oh yeah, I have all my stuff by the door and I could just take it. And I'm like, well, do you have something written down or something, like, just in case, you forget? They're like, no, they're like, we don't really have time to think. It's just going out the door when, they're asked to leave, or especially the people up in the mountains, right? Like with the mudslides and stuff like going on right now. Thankfully, we haven't had any this week, which has been amazing because I know it's been super raining, but yeah, just getting out there in the community and making ourselves known. That's one of my goals for next year.
Thanks, Elizabeth. You've got a great team there at Cecil too. Maria and Willow are both very active in thinking through virtual and online organizing as well. I know it can feel like a huge struggle to do our jobs when so much of them are kind of set to a default of being in person, but I think more and more we're learning ways to do new things and to connect in new ways. So feel free, if you'd like, reach out to me, and maybe we can have a huddle about how to host maybe a virtual event for your community too, where maybe some of those things could happen, in a way where people do feel supported and connected, and get some of those plans going, because that's exciting.
Sounds good. I will.
Thanks. Would anyone else like to share? Oh, I noticed. Go ahead, Karen.
Did somebody else want to speak?
I was going to see if maybe Molly wanted to take a second to give an introduction, to share who they are and their organization.
Oh, let's do that, and then I'll go.
Great.
Hello, my name's Molly McLeod, she, her pronouns. I'm a white, middle-aged woman with short graying hair. You don't get to see me because I've got my lovely succulent on, staying off for reasons of my own comfort. I am wearing an Access is Love sweatshirt with the heart in the middle of the O for love. And I'm in on the Tamian Nation, San Jose, California, part of the Access and Functional Needs Working Group for Santa Clara County. And was late to this meeting because I was just doing a response email to Cadre, the local VOAD volunteer organizations, advocating for more inclusive language access practices. Like I think the deaf counseling and referral agency staff or community members would be more likely to show up if we proactively provide American Sign Language. So was just the thing in front of me this morning. A recent win is Santa Clara County unanimously passed a disability inclusion and equity statement that includes commitments related to data, budgeting, and other things. And that just happened earlier this month after quite a bit of organizing. So glad to be here with you. Thanks.
Great, thank you, Molly. That was really great. Glad to hear that that your day started off with some wins and some additional access. Thank you so much for sharing. Karen.
So hello again. My name is Karen Denacor. I'm with the City of Oakland ADA Programs Division. And one of my responsibilities is to staff the Oakland Mayor's Commission on Persons with Disabilities. I want to read to you 1.2 of the commissioner's strategic plan, and then sort of tell you where we've gone with this. And I think it'll be kind of informative. It says MCPD will advocate for improved safety services for the disability community and the community in general in the face of emergencies and national disasters. Increasingly poor air quality and the need for clean air refuges is a specific concern and a permanent issue going forward. Accessible shelters and transportation to them are critical to community safety. So in response to that goal, we took some actions. We had some action steps. One of the things we did was we had PG&E come and make a really detailed presentation to the commission on the Community Wildfire Safety Program, what kind of community resources were available, what the centers were in Alameda County, what their additional support for access and functional needs customers are, and their Disability Disaster Access and Resources Program. It was a great, very detailed presentation. And I think this group will be interested in the immediate response, because the response from the commission and the public that was attending was, this sounds great. Why don't we know about this? Why isn't this more common public knowledge? What types of outreach do you do to inform people about all these services that are available? And how do you specifically outreach to the disabled community? And then the second area of intense interest has already been brought up here too, and that was about the battery program and people's needs for auxiliary power sources during disasters. And there were a lot of detailed questions, and PG&E actually provided us very detailed and specific information about the different types of batteries, okay? And then that led us to our next sort of phase of just looking at the whole big picture, which is, how do people actually access these services? Like, why is it such a mystery? And you know, how do you find services you don't know about? People describe their experiences contacting PG&E and asking them for referrals to services and being told, we just warned you we were cutting your power off. That's our accommodation. So that was kind of challenging. So sort of as an outsource of this, there's this whole additional, okay, so all of these resources are available, I guess, triggered by PSPS events and by like community emergencies and disasters, and that's great. What about more personal emergencies? What about you here? Hey, PG&E is going to cut off your power this weekend to replace some poles, and you need resources. You need the similar services to what would be available during a widespread disaster. What services are available to people who lose their power as a more sort of personal disaster? So that was one part of it. And then I'm taking too much time because we have this whole other area where we work closely with the City of Oakland's Emergency Management Services Division on their plans and policies for emergency preparedness, and specifically shelter evacuations and the accessibility of shelter evacuations, and if they are addressing all types of disabilities. And with the commission, invisible disabilities are also something very critical that they want to bring more awareness to in all of these situations. So does that sort of tell you where we're at?
It did, yeah. And it's really great to hear that being a first-time attendee of this meeting, that you're already, you know, it sounds like pretty well connected to a lot of the conversations. So that's really great. I noticed that we just had Dawn connect with us. Dawn, did you want to quickly share an introduction? And then we're in the middle of talking about kind of our year-end goals and looking forward to 2022. What are your kind of objectives in disaster readiness for 2022?
My personal year-end goals is I have 17 last people that I want to get some deliveries out to. And I have them listed for this week and next week, but honestly, they're probably going to get bumped to next week because of Christmas. So yeah, I didn't anticipate like, oh yeah, everybody's going to be gone and busy and doing stuff and not have appointments. That's my current goal, is to have all of our batteries allocated and gone before December is over, or if not delivered, at least with all their packs and loan agreements and everything ready to go out the door and charged and everything. And then in January, I want to have every dialysis patient in Humboldt and Trinity counties with their equipment, and to get that instructional video with the home dialysis nurse completed. And then I want to work on everyone's emergency plans. I've written some of them, and I've been pushing batteries kind of quick. And so I want to take a little breather once that's all caught up and work on everyone's site-specific, client-specific emergency plans, including their hazard assessment and, if they desire it, risk assessment. So that's my immediate plans. It takes me through January at least.
Thanks, Dawn. And then did you want to introduce yourself?
Oh, hi, I'm Dawn. They call me Disaster Dawn. I'm up here in Humboldt County serving Humboldt, Trinity, and Del Norte, but with this program serving Humboldt and Trinity.
Great. Thank you.
Hey,
Can I ask a
Dawn,
question?
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, June.
it's June. Hey, Dawn, can you put your email in the chat if you don't mind? We were trying to reach you with a question regarding the last call.
Okay, well, okay. Sure.
While that's happening too, I want to take a moment to ask, is everyone here, I know we have some new faces, is everyone here connected on our California Disaster Strategies Coalition listserv? If you are not, if that sounds unfamiliar to you, please feel free to share your email address in the chat, and we can make sure that you do get connected on the listserv.
Hi, Dawn, it's Lisa.
Hi.
I was just wondering if you could explain a little bit more about your role and where you are working, who you're working with, and some of the responsibilities that you carry in your position.
Here at Tri-County Independent Living, or in my life in general. Here, like with this battery distribution program. Oh, okay, yeah. Lisa and Sydney and those wonderful folks working out beyond who I'd like to meet in person one day have been able to set us up with a bunch of Yeti Goal Zero, 1500X, 3000, 3000X, and 6000X backup batteries for us to distribute to people who have medical equipment that they use in the home, such as CPAP machines, nebulizers, electric wheelchairs, compression vests, pacemaker monitors. There's a big variety of things. So those are some of the more common ones. And then they contact the program, and they do an online application, or sometimes I help them with that if they don't have internet access or have issues with that. And then they bump me back, PG&E bumps me back via SID, those applicants, and I contact them, do an intake assessment. I visit them in the home, drop off batteries, a backpack full of emergency supplies. Some of them get little, this is my last mini fridge. for like if they have insulin or medications that need to be kept cold. And the idea is to help them be less vulnerable and more resilient when a power outage or other emergency strikes. Just this last week, I was able to provide some stuff out to some people in the Salyer, Willow Creek, Hoopa, Orleans areas. And because of that, there was makes me sad. A little old lady who had been, there's a power outage out there because of the storms, and she had to travel all the way to Chico to have a place to stay. And because of that, she was able to come back home, and she was really, really happy. And then there's some of the people start crying when I bring these things out to them. There was a lady from Blue Lake. On a call, Eddie, or Zoom meeting, sorry, it's my boss. There was a lady just a couple days ago from Blue Lake who was finally able to get her battery. And before, when there was a power outage, she and her family would have to travel to Oregon to have somewhere with power. And there's another one is this kid has cystic fibrosis, and his compression vest needs to work for him. And in the past, if the power went out, they'd have to contact the hospital and be put in a hotel, and the whole family had to move to a hotel so he could get his treatments, you know. So they're really life-saving devices, and I'm really surprised at how many times people start crying when I deliver them or tell them that this exists, because we're not just giving them, you know, some medical devices, but we're giving them peace of mind and allowing them to stay at home. And then there's backup plans for a lot of them if their needs are going to be too great, or, you know, or an extended outage or whatever, to either rotate with a fully charged battery or move them to a hotel. That is one of my goals, by the way, in January also, is there's a couple of local casinos, they have their own generators, and I want to get those MOUs in place with them as backup places to move people to. And I have a MOU in place with North Bay Transit to help with transporting people if needed. So that's some of what I do. And then I have some people when Corona lifts down the line that are going to want me to come and do some presentations on emergency planning. But I'm going to get a little emotional here, because I had this one person come out with me and help me lift some 6,000s because my back was getting sore. And so he's like, oh, I'll come help you. And he just, you know, lifted them up and then just stayed out there. So, you know, people have privacy and everything, but he helped me get them up the stairs to people. But even he was like, I want to help. I want to help you do this because you're saving lives. And the people are so grateful. I have a lady who had a kidney transplant, and she'd been through a lot, and she got the kidney transplant. And now she's like, you know, I wish this had been here before, but even so, like, I delivered her little refrigerator, little pink refrigerator for her. And she was so happy, and she's putting her little medications in there. And there's these success stories that as things get caught up, I really like to start moving into the success stories and telling how this really impacts people's lives. It's done a lot for them. And people who've been told like, oh, you don't qualify or something through other agencies, we've been able to still get things out to them and help them out as best we can. And I love answering their questions when they have questions about earthquakes or tsunamis or wildfires or little things they can do to prepare that doesn't cost them a lot of money. Like, so they feel less helpless if you give them things they can do. So anyway, there's that.
Thanks, Dawn. I'm gonna, two things.
I think your voice disappeared.
Sorry, technology fail. Two things, Dawn. I'm gonna, I know you joined a little bit late, but Elizabeth from Cecil went and shared, and I'm gonna put out the same. I heard you mention Corona, you know, as a barrier. And I'm going to encourage, you know, some talk, and I'm happy to discuss with you directly as well. How to create virtual events that you can support people and envision what a disaster readiness event would look like for your center online. You've got some great folks there at TESOL. Alyssa is really wonderful, and we can work together to help put something together, maybe where you don't feel that the COVID is the barrier there. But Alexandra has added, let's talk about identifying the missing information. Alexandra, do you want to maybe offer up some of what that looks like for you?
All right, thank you. At the beginning of the call,
Yeah.
Russell, you mentioned missing information.
Mhm.
You started talking about this missing information about power chairs,
Mhm.
and other people have also kind of alluded to it. I think an interesting 2022 strategy would be to identify what's missing in the information, how to fill those gaps, and to do, I think, what I think the coalition's done a very good job with power. It's like, look, this isn't a special need. This is a part of our lives. And June's work, crossing over the health care system with the emergency preparedness system is identifying this gap about how do we get health systems to recognize that this is a part of how we do business. This is not special, extraordinary, or going above and beyond. This is how we do business. And I think if it's hard enough for us to realize what some of these gaps are, I mean, June's kind of been out there on her own with this, trying to merge, the healthcare systems, and gets still a bunch of feedback or people looking at her like, what are you talking about? It's like, because almost everybody here is involved with independent living centers and wear more than one hat, bringing together these, what some people see as disparate and separate activities, and identifying the information that would make them more connected, and not doing it as special, above the ordinary, even though it may take, regulation or compliance stuff or whatever to make it work. CFILC has been very good about getting that stuff done, but I think it's important to look at what are the gaps, what is the missing information, as you called it, Russell. So as part of a 2022 strategy.
Alexandra, also, do you want to, for those that may not be familiar with you, do you want to share your who you are and your organization?
Okay, thank you. I'm in Missoula, Montana, but I have a long history with California Independent Living Center. I go back to the first Berkeley Independent Living Center when it was the only one in the country. If I showed my background out the window, it looks like Christmas here. We have real snow. So thank you for letting me participate in your calls.
Thank you.
This June, missing information. Dawn and Lisa, when you deliver those batteries, and it's a projected longer power outage, do you help people understand how much time they're going to get on the battery, given what they need to charge, and then how to plan for that?
Yes, I do. Hang on 1 second. Let me. Oh, I am there. Okay. Yes, I do. In fact, one of the things, if it's a device that I have not encountered before or a different style device, what we do is when the weather is good and there's no projected outage, and hopefully there's not going to be an earthquake or fire or anything like that, I actually have them go ahead and use it for one night. It's like for example, a CPAP machine. Like I have them say, okay, I'm going to start at this time, and then when they wake up or finish using it this time, count out how many hours that is and see how much of that battery was used, so that we can see how long it's going to last. And from that, I've gleaned that, okay, in my mind, when I'm reading in their intake stuff and doing their assessment, and they say, oh, well, I have a CPAP machine, most of the time a 3000 is going to get them through 2 nights with that. And so, and the 6000s and 3000s, I've loaned some to the home dialysis nurse, Jeff at Fresenius in McKinleyville, and he's actually been going and using them with their different dialysis equipment and it's worked great. There's been no problems or snags thus far. I am checking back in with him at the end of the year, because they've been getting all those people signed up on the Med Baseline program, and the referrals are starting to come in now for those dialysis patients are starting to call me. But
So
So we
Dawn,
want-
if I just interrupt you, let's suppose, I think that's a great idea to have people test
mhm,
on a sunny day. That's perfect. So what if I test and I'm testing with charging my motorized wheelchair, charging my CPAP machine,
mhm.
and charging my hospital bed and lift. And so I only get maybe, maybe I get it at night, but I don't know. If that's the case, do you deliver more than one battery or?
Yes. Yes. So one of the things I want to find out is where those devices are located, if they're in the same room or not, how often they're used, how many hours they're used each time, and how much power they're using. So it may be that a couple of the devices, like the wheelchair, plugs in and charges in another room, and then the CPAP in the hospital bed are in one room. And so the 3000's in that one room with them. And I do have them tested out. I have a lady in Fortuna that is bedbound, and they have multiple devices for her. And we found out that a couple of 1500s worked for the hospital bed and those little devices. Someone else with, maybe they have an oxygen concentrator or something else, which uses more power at the onset, but then as it's running over time uses less. Some people use those 24 hours. Some people use them for part of a day. So we test it out, make sure it's going to work for at least a 2-day outage is our plan. And then the backup plan that we have, and this also gets written into their emergency plans as I'm able to write them, is that if the power outage is projected to last more than 48 hours, that the backup plan is that if I have any batteries here, that they're charging in the meantime, so I can switch those out for the used battery, bring those back somewhere else to recharge. And then also we can potentially set them up with emergency temporary relocation, either at another friend or relatives, and provide the transportation for that, or assistance with that, either by sending out a car or a wheelchair van or passenger van from North Bay Transit, or help them with gas vouchers if they're moving themselves or their family's moving them, to pay for getting them there. And then if they're going to be like in a hotel or something for a while, also assist with food vouchers. So it's a multi-layer. Like, I like to have backup plans for my backup plans. So I want plan A, B, and C before the Red Cross shelter. Red Cross shelter is plan D at least. And if it's not through us, obviously being with friends and family and close to your primary attachment figures makes things less traumatic for people, because I always think about trauma related stuff as well as the things you can't put a number to when it comes to disasters. And so staying close to friends and family and those primary attachment figures actually greatly reduces their stress. So keeping the families together if possible, which may mean like that one lady going all the way to Chico to be with family, where she knows she's safe and she trusts them and they know how to help her if she has a problem. We didn't transport her to and from Chico, but I like to have a local, whenever I create my 7-step plans, there's a local person to go to if only my home is affected, and then a farther distant person to go to if, say, it's a fire that's affecting the whole valley, and then the hotels as another option, and then Red Cross shelter. That makes that plan D at least.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Dawn.
Sorry.
I need you to take a breath.
Okay.
You're
Sorry.
going to make this accessible for everyone. I need you
Sure.
really to slow down. Thank you so much.
Okay. If you need me to repeat a portion, just let me know. I'll slow down and do that. It sounded like a simple question, but it's a multi-layer answer.
Thank you, Dawn, and thank you for being cognizant of the captioner too. Thanks. Let's see. I'd like to maybe hear from Yenin as well. Yenin, I know you're newer to our group here, but is there anything that you'd like to share or engage with that you've heard thus far?
Sure. So I've been involved with COAD, the Community Organizations Active in Disasters, and COPE, citizens organized to prepare for emergencies for the last year in Sonoma County. And I think they're going through the same process of trying to identify needs and experiences of different vulnerable populations. So that's something that they're trying to do right now, because the way that people are categorized, let's say via disability or economic status in wildfire plans and policies, from FEMA to utility companies to Sonoma County emergency or hazard mitigation plans, is very rudimentary at this point. And I think that some of those plans are being rewritten, updated. And so that's a process that I've been kind of tracking. So whatever I can bring to that process or relay to some of these groups who are trying to get more information as they also come up with their own community plans, those are kind of the things that I'm involved in. So I'm kind of here to learn.
Thanks, yeah, it's really great to hear that, we're kind of a mix here. Couple of folks at ILCs, but, it's also great to hear that we've got some really good community connections, the folks at the COADs, and other allied organizations, folks at the city of Oakland, for example, folks in Alameda County. So it's really great to hear that we're all connected here. So I want to make sure that we're getting kind of as much of all of our information together as we can. But to get back to Alexandra's missing information, I've got a quick question for folks. What is some missing information for you? What about the disaster access and readiness, or even just battery power? What's information that's missing for you? And June identified one with the power chair issue, but what if your consumers or other community members said that they can't quite get, or understand? Molly, go ahead.
This is Molly. So just read Santa Clara County's draft communications annex, and it was woefully lacking in anything about accessible communications. So the gap would be being able to prepare. I mean, and there's resources that are all over the place for this, but it was completely missing. And also any reference to people who are unhoused. And so provided a bunch of feedback on it, but even the document itself wasn't accessible. There was no alt text. Nobody had bothered to, use the accessibility wizard from that's available in Word on the document itself. So the barriers there, the other annex that I've done a public records request, and it asked for information from the 15 jurisdictions plus the county on transportation, and that one is overlooked, omitted completely, not having a clue on how are you going to get people where they need to be. There's no and there was a good discussion the other day in another context. I know June was there. For me, what I'm putting in every place that I'm providing feedback is go to June Isaacson Kale's favorite resources and get ready to do the how to include people with disabilities in an exercise. Because if we can follow that and do it, so the goal is to push the jurisdictions to do that for the Golden Eagle exercise in November, and say, follow those steps, because then they'll have to be engaging people with disabilities. Thanks.
Molly. Yeah, that's one thing that's, you know, it's not just, you know, there is information that's missing, but there's also access to the information that is missing. And thank you for highlighting that. Sometimes it's ensuring that that information that is out there is fully accessible. And in that regard, I see that Alexandra has shared a request to look at taking some of what was shared today as, you know, kind of good practices. And thank you, Dawn. I think you've got, you know, you've got a really good system, and finding, you know, I'm happy to work with you directly to support and share the practice. You know, I think that your step process of having a backup for your backup, I really liked the idea of creating kind of a tiered level approach to helping, you know, make sure that there's not just one backup plan, but that there's layers to it, because we all know that things can go wrong in a variety of ways. So yes, absolutely. I think this is definitely something that that we here at CFILC can help support putting together and putting out. And June, you've shared a link for emergency information. Do you want to share a little bit more detail about what might be found there?
Yes, there's just a link there for all kinds of emergency information. I've either written or assembled that Molly referred to. There's a document there on including people with disabilities in emergency, in tabletop exercises and real exercises, and not using actors and that kind of thing. But I wanted to go back to what you were saying, Russell, and connect the dots with what Dawn was saying. Dawn, Alexandra always says to me, get it out of your head, write it down, share it. So that's what that website is. But what you just said, I'm concerned, and Lisa, I'm concerned that people, you all are on the trenches. You're in the front lines of what's going on. You are learning a lot. And I'm really worried that it's not getting written in a way that all the people that you don't touch can also take advantage of the information. And Russell and I have talked about this too. So hopefully that's a major goal for 2022 of this group, because frankly, I think we all need to remember that independent living centers maybe touch 5% of the people really needing the information. So for what that's worth, Dawn and others, Lisa, I just think we need to get this really written down in a specific kind of way, not the vanilla, vague way.
Yeah, June. Hi, everybody. It's Lisa with CFILC and part of the Disability Disaster Access and Resources Program, which is what Dawn, I believe, was referring to when she was talking about the role that she's taking on at TCIL. She is one of the people that works on this program from the Tri-County area up north. And June, you know, hit our target goal for next year on the head, and working harder with the centers that are involved in this program to better market and get out to more communities and you know, communities that are difficult to reach, tribal communities perhaps, and get the word out about this program to get support to those that you know, we have, there's there's a missing link there. And so our big, one of our bigger goals for next year is to really help these centers create different strategies in their marketing and support of this program specifically, which is funded by PG&E and some other sources depending on where the center is. But yeah, I think that was a really good question, and one that we have been talking about and working with the centers on for at least since I came back from my medical leave in August. And when we get in the middle of a PSPS season, which is typically maybe August to, well, last year went through January, but it gets a little bit more hectic, and when things start to slow down after the first of the year, that's when we would like them to like to support them in getting creative marketing materials out there in several different formats to reach more of the public in the community that really could use the resources that are available.
And Lisa, I'm hoping that when you do that, there is a version that everybody can use and that is well vetted by a number of people. So, we all can add to reviewing those kind of documents. And just my continued refrain, which is please, 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 please don't just think about public safety power outages.
Right.
I know that's how you're funded, but when we experience the next catastrophic events, it's not going to be for 2 nights.
Right. I didn't mean to exclusively say that's
Okay.
what we do. So thank you for leading me to the next bottle of water, so to speak. We do disability disaster support without public safety power shutoffs. But we are reaching out to more agencies and organizations that assist with that to get ourselves and the center staff across the country, across the state, more information about how to handle those types of things and get more connected within their communities to find out where the different types of support are outside of the public safety power shutoffs. Dawn's a great resource. We've learned a lot from her experience and her vision and knowledge. So I'm really glad that she was able to attend this session today. But yeah, no, we are across the board disability disaster, way outside of PSPS events. So I just want to make that very, very clear that the marketing goes out, and it's not just about when PG&E is planning to turn power off, because Dawn's up in the north. She's working in Humboldt County, and they had that earthquake just this last week. And that's something that I'm sure she was involved with in one way or another, as far as communicating and helping the local communities out there that were impacted by that. So yeah, I see her nodding her head. So
yeah. I starting closest to the epicenter and going out a certain number of miles, I did by text, because it uses 1-800 the bandwidth of a person-to-person phone call. We don't want to tap the lines, but I did well person checks on the people in my catchment that have received batteries from me, and one person that was still on the list, to do just well person checks. And luckily they were fine. They had some had some damage, but physically they were okay. And they appreciated, that, hey, someone cared, So.
Yeah. And thank you, Dawn. I would encourage everybody on the call in this meeting to go on to the Disability Disaster Access and Resources website and save the link to the application for DDAR services. Like I said, it's not just about public safety power shutoffs. It's about planning for disasters and readiness, and getting goals and plans in place for whether you have to shelter in place, how to do that, how to plan for if you have to evacuate, and everything else that comes along with that, including pets or service animals. And, you know, can you get out if your garage door doesn't have power, right? That's a whole nother issue. So, you know, we look at all that stuff and more, right? To support them. So if everybody can just grab that link and keep it handy and start passing it out, and the information that you're sharing, at least for the state of California. I mean, we don't work outside of the state of California at this point, but you know, anytime that link can go out and offer support and let them know that there's people out there that can help in times of need, would be greatly appreciated, because we can use all the support in getting that word out and getting those registrations and applications in, so we can service the people in need.
Thanks, Lisa. And not to fear, I always send the same message directly to PG&E. I just don't pick on you.
No, I didn't feel picked. I'm not feeling picked on. It's not. No, it's a good conversation. So thank you. Yeah, no problem.
Nobody's getting picked on here. I'm seeing, actually, I want to take a quick moment to just identify that from this meeting alone, I've seen some natural connections that I think can occur in January. Dawn, you have an immense amount of information that you've shared with me privately in a chat, so I know that we can look to you to help kind of get that information out there. And even though we only serve California here at CFILC and our DARCs, the Access and Readiness Centers, this information is applicable, right? Like it's almost like if we're doing our job, we could be you know, a place where someone could learn over a course of time, of course, how to hold accountable their equivalent of PG&E, right? Because we all know that there's power suppliers everywhere that aren't doing nearly enough, even in our own state. The ones that are not PG&E, what are they doing? So, you know, but I like this idea of having the videos. I think that that's definitely something that we work on over in the DO network, the Disability Organizing Network, is putting together a series of videos. So I'm happy to brainstorm with some of you on that. And I would hope that to June's, you know, June, you really said something very important. Who are we having review these materials? So I would hope that the rest of you that are new to the coalition will join us in helping to do that. One of my next step action items will be to put together a space that we can collaborate, a Google Drive that we can use to start putting our information in together collaboratively and start building the thing, right? Because we need to get to that point where we have something to show, and also to get out of our inside our head, as Alexandra says. Alexandra also shared in chat, home safety and personal safety are two additional significant categories for everyone. How to fill in the missing information with some kind of disability filter and identified accessibility solutions is needed in the mainstream approaches to addressing safety. And I think that's kind of our end ultimate goal. And hopefully we can be a part of assembling that. Alexandra, do you want to add anything else to that?
No, just do it.
Yeah, I figured.
I mean, I think it gets overlooked on the gift call. You know, we're looking at a preparedness kind of stuff, and it's like, you know, a lot of it really breaks down into things that you do for home safety. You know, the fire extinguishers, the smoke alarms, etc., and personal safety. And it's like where it starts crossing over the what seems like a big gap to me right now is like personal safety is also things like grab bars. How often do we talk about grab bars when we're talking about fire extinguishers? or any of the other stuff. And it's like, June has, we talked about this a different call, this thing that it's wellness and safety and health and independence. It all should be part of that puddle, not just into the emergency preparedness or management, whatever, because people don't think about the personal safety elements of it. And I think that we could all agree that many of the accessibility solutions have real applications to mainstream kind of programs, but they just haven't thought about it yet. That kind of missing information really is two-way. And thinking about the two-wayness of it, if there is such a word, how it goes both ways. This isn't just all helping special people, but it's two ways. And how does what you've done such a good job with already, how can you bring that back into the community that may see it as special stuff? Because I don't think it is special.
Yeah, so this is Lisa, and I'm gonna, tag Dawn in a minute, but the assessment that is done by the centers is very thorough and goes through all of their accessibility needs and how we can support them in making sure that they have what they need during those times, especially with accessibility. Transportation included, like Dawn was saying, her accessible transportation options up in her area. She has multiple options for people with different degrees of disabilities. So it is part of the intake process. But if Dawn, you want to talk a little bit more about that, as you are one that actually does that, can you talk a little bit more about the accessibility piece of the assessments?
You mean when I'm just meeting with people and finding out what their personal needs are?
Correct.
Okay, well, I want to look at not only their house in general, but also their physical, medicinal / medical, cognitive, mental health / behavioral issues, pets, family, support network or lack thereof. I have one lady who is pretty much housebound right now because she does not have a ramp to exit her apartment, and the landlords won't let her put one in. So for her, part of her long-term plan is moving to somewhere that does have a ramp and accessibility to not rely on others to come help evacuate her. But the short term, we have to make a plan for her too. There's some people who have wheelchairs, but they can transfer out of a wheelchair into a car. And there's some people who require a wheelchair van. It's a really broad topic. When we're, in communication, always, are they able to communicate on their own? Do they have hearing aids that are battery operated? In which case, we're in a moist environment. They need way more backup battery supply for those because they go bad when it's moisture environment much quicker, or if it's raining out, versus somebody who I gave a Jackery to who has a hearing aid battery that charges electronically. So there's a whole, that's a really broad topic, Lisa. But you wanted me to talk about the transportation piece?
No, I just wanted to let Alexandra know that we do touch on the disability and accessibility needs of the people that we're working with in the DDAR program. So I didn't cover that enough, but it's definitely one of the first things that we acknowledge and work towards.
Just to address just the communication piece alone, there's 3 facets to communication. People need to be able to receive the information in a way, they understand the information, be able to act on the information they are provided, whether it's from me, from a NOAA weather radio alert, or the media or pamphlets or anything. So a couple of the things I've done in the past is not with this program, I haven't done it yet, but the plans are in the works. We have some folks over here that transfer some of my messaging into Braille for some of my vision impaired individuals. And here at TESOL, we have Alyssa who's working on a website, and another lady, Julie, who they're really knowledgeable about making things visually and hearing and otherwise accessible. And then for me, a lot of times, like if I'm presenting to regional center clients and stuff, I have to be aware of the language I use and make sure I use language that's understandable and giving permission that people that permission slip to tell me to slow down because I get excited and talk fast to you know, raise their hand if they have questions and not feel like, oh, like I hate to interrupt her or something, and to ask any questions, even if they're afraid to ask or think it. There's no stupid questions, just the permission slip to communicate and to say, hey, I need help understanding. We have Mari here who's fluent in Spanish. Eddie's fluent in several languages. I have somebody who's fluent in Chinese, our Mandarin and Cantonese. And I have another resource who's fluent in Tagalog. And, you know, so just finding out what their communication styles and needs are and being aware of that, that's really important too. I can talk and talk and talk and talk, but if they don't understand it, we're wasting both of our time and just frustrating people.
And that, Don, that's why, and Russell, I said the more people that can review the kind of documents that we come up with in 2022, the better. And, you know, I've learned that, Russell, we make these mistakes like a lot. Google Docs, most people can't use it, won't use it, don't have a clue. So we need to really
Yeah. And
use multiple ways to have people give us feedback, because, you know, even it's not really dumbing it down. It's just writing in very plain language, which is extremely difficult for all of us, because, you know, whether high school or college, they made us learn all these big words that we never use. And now we're burdened by it. Anyway, couldn't resist saying that. Sorry.
thank you. And I was only recommending that Google Doc be the place where we create, not that we finalize. So if it's not accessible to any of our creators, then we certainly need to work on how to plug in pieces. So
Yep.
Molly, go ahead.
This is Molly. Don, I am loving what I'm hearing. And like I personally would say, I'd sign up for 5 hours to work on a project, to download, you know, to capture, memorialize, write up the things that you talk about. I'm a pretty quick typist in doing it. I would love the practice of putting things in plain language or easy read approach. And so this seems like a really practical tool. So if there's a working session or a way that you like to work, I would like to be involved in that. It would be, I think, mutually beneficial. So I'm going to put my contact information in, and it's got a Calendly, so you could pick a time, but I'm thinking I could, in whatever increments you might like, or with others who might work on this, be able to make an initial offer of 5 hours and see what comes up and then have it reviewed. Thanks.
I'd like to help coordinate that if I could. So Molly, feel free to share that info either in the chat publicly or with us in the chat. I think we've got now, I've heard at least 4 or 5 great individuals that I think we could bring to a conversation here. Thank you for offering the skill of typing. Sometimes that's the most challenging. I know most of you can't see my work environment, but I rely on Dragon Naturally Speaking, which types extremely fast, but it does not afford me the luxury of talking to you all and typing. So it's I get to do either or.
As videos are made and before they're released, I think it's good to pass it around the group and have other people check it out and comment, give feedback and stuff. And then, redo if you need to redo as many times till it's like something everyone could be proud of and feel confident in moving forward.
Yeah, Dawn, and here's where the listserv, I think, will be a powerful tool for us, because we've got that group of folks on the listserv that we can rely on to give us little notes and feedback.
Okay.
Hey, Molly, June, I can't resist in picking you about I've read so much about, diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility statements, but I've read very little about or seen very little about what's underneath in terms of what makes it real, the details, the specificity, of the, for you, it's the jurisdiction. Like, what are their building blocks that they're always using to make sure this is real and not just one more easy to write statement?
This is Molly. Thanks for the question, June. I think for me, it goes to the big insight shared in the Partnership for Inclusive Disaster Strategies 2018 report, after action report, the blueprint for making things better, and that goes to relationships. It's what we're doing now. It's being able to then share things and say, all right, Google Docs, what are they? Who are they accessible to? What are the alternatives? And for me, I would get input about that most. My little circle that I would go to would be the disability working group of showing up for racial justice. In terms of commitments, trying to get City of San Jose, when you have a commitment, one, that it was crafted by people with disabilities. And then it's how we hold electeds and decision makers accountable. So it's, for me, one tool of finding what is our common ground, what are we asking, demanding, what are we working towards? So, and even the process, like people with disabilities, Santa Clara County has offices for all sorts of stuff. And the Board of Supervisors are looking at one another and saying, how did we not notice this? Well, that's because people with disabilities are locked away, put away, left behind, left for dead. And it's a practice of mindfulness. So those are some of my initial thoughts, but it's good to have, I treasure the resources that are on your website because they are grounded in decades of work and collaboration. And so it feels like all I need to do to be a part of is just keep pointing to the stuff that we know works and then trying to join this community and broaden it. So like saying, hey, I didn't know most of the things that I know now 2 years ago, and trying to invite people to come along for this journey. Thanks.
Thanks.
I agree that Surge is a great resource for those kinds of discussions. So just to kind of follow up, like with my personal next steps as an organizer, I am going to be connecting with those of you that have shared your email addresses, and feel free to jump in if you'd like to be included in the circle. The email that I'm going to send out will encourage us to come together and find a time. And I will be asking if there are Google Doc or Google Drive access issues for anybody who's participating, because I do want to be sure that we find ways to plug into all of the, make sure all of the pieces of what as we're creating, that it's accessible as possible for everyone. And knowing too, that what we produce needs to be held to the highest standards of access. So looking at, June's experience ideally we will make both fully accessible Word documents and also PDF formats of materials and video material that is captioned and includes visual descriptions as well, audio description. And thank you. I really appreciate all of you that are new with us today. I know that this is a time of year that folks start heading off for various activities. So I just want to appreciate all of you and this great conversation. Feel free to again join us the second Thursday of the month in January for the next topic call. And June, do you want to maybe briefly share what we've got on deck for January?
That's a call where some people are going to, who've been through some power outages long term or have planned for them, are going to share some specifics given their lived experiences. People with, not only use powered chairs, but use CPAPs and other kinds of powered equipment. The real lived experience and a discussion, just like what we're having now. So a real chance to go deep and explore together. And that will be on this January 13th at 10:30 Pacific time.
And just for everyone's convenience, it also uses the exact same Zoom link and information as this call. So thank you. And when I send out the email to the group, I'm also going to make sure that all of you have the opportunity to, that you're connected on the listserv, the California Disaster Strategies Coalition listserv, which is a statewide communication channel for all of these conversations. All right, well, thank you so much for all of your time today. Really appreciate you joining us, and thank you to Yanin as well for coming in and sharing. I'd love to hear more experience about COADs and VOADs and people who are participating in those. So thank you so much. And I hope that you all have a great rest of 2021 and kick 2022 off with a lot of virtual, activities and engagement. I'm excited about next year, honestly. So thank you.
Thank you, Russell and June, for hosting this.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.